saw a light come from one end of the room to right over my bed, and it was just a wavy white light, and it felt like it could see into my soul. And I remember I noticed, there's something on top of my heart, and it just felt like
Rebecca Kastl, a pediatric speech-language pathologist, healer, and an author whose extraordinary, spiritually transformative experience turned a lifelong skeptic into what she calls as the accidental mystic now. She had that profound experience of seeing a light after making a vow to God, to divine in her journal.
I guess my first entry in this journal was February 2005, where I wrote, I have decided to give my life to you, and this is my pledge. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. The next morning, I woke up to go to school, and I saw light coming out of everyone I passed. So then I started having dreams that started coming true. I had a spontaneous kind of life review, which is what near-death experiencers have. But when I made this promise, I started to feel light beings around me. They just felt like we can listen to our hearts. Sometimes I think if you get a nudge in your heart that you're like, this doesn't feel right, that's probably you feeling.
He began seeing light within everyone, experiencing psychic dreams, alternate timelines, communication with angels. What followed was a complete transformation of how she saw and viewed consciousness, connection, and healing. Rebecca now shares her story to bridge the gap between science and spirituality, helping others to trust their intuition and the right side of the brain, and understanding the mystical experience they've had, and reconnect with the divine guidance which is always guiding us. And I have asked in this podcast questions which you might be having in your head if you're a logical person, or if you might be having in your head if you've had mystical experiences which you do not consider mystical, or experiences which you do not have answers to. So let's get into the interview right away. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to Metasuperhuman. And I am pretty sure that this episode is going to be so angelic, just like your aura and the way you speak. I've seen you speak on other podcasts. You are amazing.
What? You're amazing. Thanks so much for having me. It's such an honor. I mean, yeah, I had stuff that I did not believe in, and it really changed my life. I'm really honored that you feel that energy from me. It means a lot.
Absolutely. I'm an engineer and then an industrial designer. So
Wow.
I come from a scientific background like you,
Wow.
as you mentioned that you were a total skeptic, coming from a science background,
Mhm.
and I believe a pediatric speech therapist. And
Yes.
then you started writing to God. So I have always been a spiritual person throughout my life since my childhood. I am a
Wow.
Hindu, like born Hindu, but
Nice.
I've been spiritual. So whenever I used to go to the temples and I used to see all those idols, I used to say that I think that all of the idols have that energy. And this is as a child, I'm saying. So I've always been there
Wow.
at the peak of spirituality, but still being a skeptic, because when you are into science, your logical brain takes over,
Yeah.
right? So I want you to start with that, speak more on how did this journey happen and what were you writing? And I will keep asking questions in between
Yeah.
because my mind will ask questions.
I love that. That's beautiful. I mean, yeah, honestly, before we get started, that's so beautiful. You're Hindu. I've had a friend who's Hindu say, you just need to read the Bhagavad Gita because everything you're saying is in there. So I've
Absolutely.
picked it up some, and I probably need to read it more, but thank you. Yeah, being an engineer, I can imagine same backgrounds, not same, but my dad was an MD PhD, so he's a doctor with a PhD in biochemistry. My mom was a psychologist, so I really was raised in this very, proof material reductionist. Nothing is real unless I can see it, which I
True.
think is, that is part of life. Our minds are part of our experience on the planet. But I had the trauma when I was 13, and I did all of the mental healing that I could do. I did, a lot of therapy, and eventually I was dismissed from therapy and told that I was fine because I always seemed okay for the most part. I was a good student, etc. And when I was 23, I remember telling myself, I'm not fine. Something is still on top of my heart, which I didn't know at the time, but that was my spiritual side coming awake. And I started to do all these things to try to feel better and to try to feel my heart. And so I was learning things I didn't believe in, like energy work. And I did a lot of yoga. but really just to come back to my body. It was not like a hobby for me. I did it 5 to 6 days a week for over an hour to really help me
Wow.
be embodied. And then I also started writing my journal, Dear God, which is how the whole experience started, which I know is a heavy word for people, but it was just me writing to my soul. Maybe it's not heavy for some people. I just feel like when I bring that up, I'm like, and all of the human history with religion. But for me, it was just like, Dear God. And I would write about my life. And then one night I just spontaneously wrote that I wanted to devote my life to God, to live by the light, help other people live by the light, help me do this. And I was just crying. And that started a whole 2-year spiritual experience.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, Rebecca. And, as I see you anywhere, I can sense that aura now that you're speaking with me directly.
Oh.
Would you like to talk a little bit about your trauma, like what happened? Or
Do you think your viewers, I mean, I started talking about it recently, like in the last year, because when I first started telling my story, I was like, I'm just gonna talk about the happy God stuff, like the love and healing. And, when you really hear the story of what I went through, I think you can understand maybe a little bit more about why my experience was so profound, because I don't think everyone has an experience like this. I hope we will in our own ways. But yeah, my trauma, I'm gonna give a trigger warning for your viewers, but I was 13 years old and I went to a sleepover at my friend's house. She had older brothers and he had friends over. And, I was 92 pounds, but I remember her handing me something to drink. And I don't remember anything until I woke up on the laundry room floor and there were people in the doorway making faces. I didn't know what they were looking at. And then there were 4 boys over me taking turns assaulting me. And I'm sorry to put, but it was really awful. I've been through a lot of healing to be able to get to this level and talk about it. It's
I'm
really
pretty No, it's okay. Thank you so much for sharing that because I believe that life is like that, it's a
Mhm.
dip and a high. And I think your trauma brought light to you. What happened cannot be, I cannot say anything about it. In fact, it should not happen to anyone. And I hope that no one ever relates to this. I'm
Right.
sure so many people do, but that's a very sorry thing for our humanity. But yeah, let's come back to the heaviness on your heart. When I was listening to your podcast and I heard the same term, heaviness on your heart, I feel it so many times on my heart. And I believe so many people feel it out there, but they just don't verbalize it.
Mhm.
So, can you explain exactly what kind of heaviness you felt on your heart? And it's that thing, what according to me, it's that thing which you want to just remove and you will
Mhm.
feel so much relief. So, can you explain that a little bit? Then we'll jump into your letter to God or diary to
Yeah.
God. What was it?
Diary entry, yeah, it was a
Diary.
journal entry, yeah. I did not believe what happened to me was possible, but I spent so long deciding it was real. But yeah, so when I had been basically dismissed from therapy or kind of everything was going fine, why was I still not feeling really myself? And that's when I noticed, there's something on top of my heart. And it just felt like maybe it was energy, maybe it was trauma, but I really just wanted to see what was under my heart. I wanted to see what was under that heaviness, which, when I got there, it was just God or love, divine love, source. And I think, it's only an internal experience that helps us know that. Like, nothing could make sense
Yeah.
mentally about it, but really just being like, okay, what makes me feel better? What doesn't? What helps me feel more aligned with my heart? What doesn't? And that's why, and really like a lot of the stuff I teach now or do, it's only like, I only trust anything that has helped me be in alignment with my heart. So that is what started everything, and, I really was very diligent. I was a straight A student, I was a great therapy patient, and then when I made this decision at 23, I wanna feel my heart, I was really serious about it. No one knew I was doing that, but I was just anything I could do to try to feel that alignment, yeah.
So the first step you did was write your diary to God to feel your heart.
Yeah, I guess I started a spiritual journey, and that was part of it. It was a few different things that and the one that really started the awakening was the diary to God. But I was doing other things to clear my system, I guess, because I'd had so much kind of trauma on it. No one, if you're looking at me mentally, you wouldn't be able to tell, but anyone who was
I
spiritually aware would have been able to tell that I had all this stuff I was carrying. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. I wrote a letter to God, but you're writing a whole diary to God. If one thing people can take away from this podcast, it's they should start writing to God. I mean, because that's the most intimate person, thing, whatever you call God is. And we need to talk. We need to
Yeah.
talk to him, her, whatever you guys call it,
Right. Yeah.
or him. I believe in God, and so does Rebecca. So, can you tell a little bit like what you used to write and how you used to write it in present tense, or you
Yeah.
just used to write all your pains, or you used to write, give me a solution, or
It was
everything?
just anything, and it was not even going for that long. Maybe it was a little longer, but I have the journal over there, that's why I'm looking over there. So I still have it. But and I need to start doing that again. I still do it. I talk to God and all of that, but I would just write dear God and write. Sometimes I would just write about what I was doing. I would write that I'm in grad school. I would write that I had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
I would, and then, but then I would also write, Dear God, I want to understand what life is about. I want to know what my soul is doing here, starting to ask the bigger questions. And then I made that big promise. And I think anyone can make a promise like that. I think it definitely is answered. We might not see all the things I saw
Hmm.
because I think because I was so traumatized, I was really open to what was happening in the spiritual world because I was pretty disembodied. But I think anyone can write a promise like that. It really did change my entire life, and I didn't expect it to.
And like, is it possible for you to bring your journal?
Yeah, I was gonna get it, but I didn't.
Please do. Yeah.
It's 20 years old at this point because I wrote this in January 2006.
Can you just show it to my audience?
This
So,
is the
guys,
page.
this is so beautiful. The beautiful
Really?
journal, which
It's
we
not beautiful on the outside though. This is what it looks like on the front.
everything is beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's like
Everything
girls
is.
eating spaghetti in their bikinis.
That's okay.
Real world.
Yeah,
My
real
friend gave it to
world.
me for my birthday.
Yeah, this is the page. And guys, I mean, this actually why I asked you to bring it.
Yeah.
I wanted to share this with the audience. Like, I have a gratitude journal I shared, and then people keep asking how we should write morning, evening. It's just you pouring out your energy into the journal. And we have Rebecca who talks to angels, and she just has an ordinary journal in which she was talking to God, after which she had this profound experience.
Right, exactly. Because it was just very simple. I just opened my heart really sincerely. It wasn't like I was trying to. It was just really, I just really wanted to know God. And I said I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
It got answered. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell that story to my audience, that how it happened, what you wrote, for how long you wrote this journal, and when did the answer came and how?
Okay, yes, I'll tell you everything. So this journal, this entry is just a few pages into the journal. I guess my first entry in this journal was February 2005, where I said I feel lost, but I'm feeling less lost, and I'm writing a few things, and then I write some more in January 2006, a little bit in May, or anyway. And then this is what I wrote. So I had been really doing a lot of healing at this point, but I'd moved to New York for graduate school. I was a master's student at Teachers College, Columbia University, so really intellectual environment. But I wrote like, my goal is to learn to let go of fear. My heart has grown so much, but I know there's still more to do. I want to learn to trust myself and to trust you, to speak my heart and to live in joy. And I've never read that part out loud. So, and then the next part is what I wrote to promise. I wrote just after that, I have decided to give my life to you and whatever that entails. I want to be guided by you, by the light. This is my pledge. I will work hard to follow this path and to bring it to fruition. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. Thank you. Amen.
That's beautiful. Thank you for reading that for
Thank
us.
you. Yeah.
And how old were you when you wrote that?
I was 26.
Wow, that's
Yeah, I was
pretty
20.
young.
I guess I was pretty young, but because a lot of people go on spiritual journeys when they've had, a big change in their marriage, they got a divorce or their career changed. But I had, been so traumatized. I had started my spiritual journey. I guess not, some people start that early. I think a lot of people are nowadays, but back then. So that night, so this experience started like the night I wrote that.
The night you wrote that.
Mhm.
That's so amazing to hear. So what happened?
So I was going to sleep that night. I was not asleep yet, but I saw a light come from one end of the room to right over my bed, and it was just a wavy white light. And it felt like it could see into my soul. It felt like a lot of love and really powerful. And I remember tensing up and telling the light, I'm afraid, go away. I'm afraid, go away. And after I said that, I started to feel tingling come into my head. And it felt like a headache, but felt like love and peace. Like I've never had this happen before, had this happen. So it just felt like tingling. It was getting stronger and stronger. I was like, this is such a weird headache. I had a boyfriend at the time. We were both in graduate school. I thought maybe he was asleep, but I thought, should I wake him up and find out if he's having this headache? But then it got so strong and I relaxed into the feeling and I felt a voice come into my head and it said, you don't have to be afraid, but if you are, you can wear a hat. And then it put a graduation hat into my mind's eye, which at the time I didn't understand it. At the time I was 26 and I just said right back to the voice, that hat is not cute. Here's some other hats that are cuter. And I just put 3 other hats into the voice because I didn't know I was having a spiritual experience. But now I think it was a metaphor that I was able to go to graduate school for the duration of my 2-year experience, and I was able to wear the hat of a graduate student while I had all this spiritual stuff happen. It really did help me to be able to plug into that identity because I went through a lot of stuff that I think really shifted me.
So you had this experience while you were awake, not when you were
I
half
was
asleep.
awake. Yeah, I was awake.
Totally
Most of my
awake.
experience was awake. I was awake.
Wow. I would freak out.
I
Trust
freaked
me,
out.
you did. Because
I
for me, like I've had an out of body experience once where my body was floating outside my body. It went till here, like till my neck. And then I was kind of like in a lucid dreamy state.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
was practicing out of body at that time, but I got so shit scared that I said, drop, come back. And then I was really scared. So I mean, this question, like if someone is on a spiritual journey, maybe like me, who's scared of dark, who's scared of the unknown, but so much wants, like desperately wants to connect with the unknown, with God, with divine light. What is the suggestion for you? Because you've overcome that fear. How to overcome that fear?
No, I think I overcame the fear because one thing I haven't mentioned, which I can talk about, is that after my trauma, I had these horrible nightmares of shadowy beings around my bed till my spiritual experience. So I was always in a state of fear around sleeping, because I would be awakened and I would basically be out of my body. But when I saw this light, it was more like I was afraid because my soul was being seen. It's kind of scary to see something that it looks very real, but it's not in this world, and it's seeing your soul. That it's more like your soul's kind of scared. A lot of times they don't want to scare us and that's why they don't make themselves known. Like angels don't always show up in their form because it can be overwhelming. But I think the way to get over fear is to know that your soul is part of God. Like that's how I got rid of my nightmares and how I eventually was okay with all of this was like I had to accept that spirituality was real and that this was a loving experience. It was really helpful. That helps too. I did have some mentors though, because I did freak out. And for a while, you wouldn't believe it, but I didn't know why I started seeing all this stuff. I was like, something's wrong. I don't know why I'm seeing all this stuff. And I had to talk to a friend who was like, what did you change? What did you do differently? And I thought I couldn't think of anything until I told her, well, I did devote my life to God in my journal. And she was like, that's why you're seeing all this. Like, I didn't even know, like, I didn't even connect the two things, because it was
Yeah,
just
so she connected the dots for you.
yeah. She was like, that's
Wow.
why you're seeing all this. You took a written vow. It seems so out of reality for me. But since I went through all of it, I've decided it was real and we can make promises like this and change our lives. I believe that
Can you
now.
tell more about your experiences? Like what
Love.
experience you had after that light coming into your bedroom?
Yeah. So the first few weeks, so I saw that light. That was the very first night I wrote that in my journal.
So you saw it
And
every night.
what?
You saw that every
No,
night.
I just saw no, that first night I saw the light. And
Okay.
then the next morning I woke up to go to school, to class, because I was in graduate school, and I
Mhm.
saw light coming out of everyone I passed. And it
Wow.
wasn't just light, it was love. I could see the love that they were. I could see the light that they were. And was in love with everyone I saw. Like I was walking down the street in New York City and just seeing, especially in the subway, I remember it really vividly just being like, how did I never notice we're all so beautiful?
What
How
color
did
was it?
it was just white light around everyone.
I've had amazing traffic and people watching my videos here at Metasuperhuman. And one request I have from you is please subscribe to that channel, which is free of cost. It just helps me to bring more profound guests on my channel. So just hit that subscribe button and share this video with the ones who actually need this.
And it
Wow.
wasn't like I didn't really notice if it was brighter or less bright. People have asked me. I just remember thinking, whoa, everyone has light around them. How come I've never noticed this? And I'm going to class, so I'm just kind of like moving along. But it just was like I could see the love that their souls come. And that was really beautiful.
Just one question coming in my head. There are people whom we don't like, right?
Mhm.
Or who bully us or they are mean. So you saw light around them and how
I
did you
saw light
feel?
around, and these were a lot of strangers, but I did see light around And once I experience it, I see it in people more in their eyes. But yeah, during this experience, I couldn't tell if someone wasn't a nice person. I could only see their light. And that made me pretty naive. But I think, spiritual experiences like this, mystical experiences, they make us naive because I'm just seeing the love in people. And then people generally will show you the love that they are. But I couldn't tell if
I
someone
don't
was
think
bad.
that's being naive. I think it's just being God and godly.
Mhm.
So definitely, I think everyone would agree to me on that, that you
Yeah.
were not naive, you were just divine. So let's go move forward. Like after that, what happened?
I started having psychic dreams. So my mom was a psychologist,
Okay.
and we always analyzed our dreams like Freudian style,
Wow.
and so then I started having dreams that started coming true, and they have considered persisted ever since. This started 2006, these dreams, and I've always had them ever since. They come sometimes are stronger and not as strong, but like I've had dreams about a car accident before it happens. And in the dream, I can always tell they're going to come true if they're a lot brighter, like there's a spotlight in them. And then I see the car in the dream. I see it smashed on the side of the road. And then a few days later, the car is in the same place as it was in the dream. And it's like the same thing as my dream. That's happened a few times. I mean, that's happened some big ones like that, but other things like my friends will come to me in a dream and tell me something. And it turns out to be true because they'll tell me the same thing in real life, like that kind of stuff.
Wasn't it scary for you?
No, somebody asked me that before and it wasn't scary. These dreams are like really comforting because it feels like my soul is just plugged in. Like all this is like, oh, my soul's in touch with my soul or source, God.
Scary in a way that if you're seeing a car crash, you will get scared that, oh my God, this is going to happen that way.
It's funny because maybe it was supposed to let me know, but it was so funny and about that because I've also had a dream where I got carbon monoxide poisoning and survived it, and I had a dream about it before it happened. But it's like I couldn't have changed it. There was no way I could have seen this coming except for the dream. Like I couldn't have gone a different way. Like it just happened. But it was almost like a preparation to know that I would be okay and that it was fine. Because every time I have a dream like that, I'm like, or I'm just watching, okay, okay, I see that, I see. And I just have to keep living because we don't know when it's gonna happen. That's like the bigger ones that come true. But the ones with my friends, they're also just very nice. It helps me kind of know what's going on with them. And yeah, it wasn't scary though. It was just comforting
You
in a
know
way.
why I asked that? Because
Mhm.
I am very intuitive, like since
Mhm.
my childhood,
Mhm.
and I'm extremely spiritual. That's why this podcast.
Yeah.
So, but I've had those experiences where I got to know, I always get to know when my father is having some, health problem.
Yeah.
And I will go to the city to see him without telling him that, I came to see you because I had this dream, or I'll call him up and he will be unwell. Sometimes I'm so scared of the spiritual awakening
Mm.
that if I get awakened, I will know what's in the future. And they might be good things, bad things, but I'm so scared of the bad things that maybe I'm blocking it. I
Mm.
mean, I'm blocking my spiritual, like the full-fledged spiritual experience because I'm just scared of whatever I just said. So what do you
Right.
suggest for this kind of feeling?
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I think what has helped me is to know that, and because of my trauma and my spiritual awakening, like God is good. That helps. And to know that if something bad does happen or you see it, there's generally a purpose behind it. Of course, I don't want to say that for your dad going through something really hard, but sometimes when we're shown something, it's because you're supposed to see it to help someone. I do have clients that have stuff like that where they see really negative things and it's in the dreamscape because they're supposed to go help someone. And, I think just trusting that there's a purpose. And you can also ask, you can say, I'd rather not have the dreams about negative things. I'd rather just have the happy dreams. But this helps you with your father, right? It sounds like when you have a dream like this, you know that you can reach out to him and he needs you because you're connected.
But I have had these questions from a lot of my clients as well as, from other people who are watching my content that,
Mhm.
we have experienced someone in our life passing away, right? My mother passed away now 14 years back.
Wow.
And
Sorry.
since I was not that scared before her passing away,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I got scared after she left her vessel that, I get so scared to have such experience and to even connect to God. It has closed me. And I'm pretty sure that so many people, as I mentioned, they keep speaking about this. They are so closed. What would you suggest for me, for those people who are listening who have lost their loved ones and would really like to open up to us, or maybe would like to open up spiritually, which they're not able to?
Right. I would really get in touch with your heart, like I said earlier, but also to know, your loved ones aren't gone. I'm sure you know that with your mom, that her spirit's eternal and life has a specific purpose. And from what I've read, they're generally much happier. They feel very good now. And it's hard to say that because, of course, we miss our family members. But, God to me is about hope and love and trusting. And so just being able to hope again and have, an opening into that because it's meant to just bring you comfort and peace and joy and all of that sweetness that's so simple. Because you could open to that and just let that come into your heart and feel better. It doesn't mean you don't have to see a lot of cool things. You might though, but you might just feel better.
Yeah, no, there was like just before I lost my mother. Few months before that, I totally dedicated myself to God. I remember that in a way that it was like a total dedication. I cleaned up my space. I was in like my college of
Mhm.
IIT, and I cleaned up my space, my hostel, and I said that I am dedicated to you. You need to set my life. And I was in a very not a good phase of my life,
Mm.
and I saw miracles. Like, I don't
Wow.
know why it's coming out of my mouth right now because I've never shared it otherwise.
Wow.
So I was crying the night before and I was telling God, hug me, hug me, hug me, please hug me. And I was crying so badly. And then I slept. And at that time, we used to have those landline cables.
Mhm.
You're
Mhm.
aware, landline cables, and I had a landline wire in my room somehow.
Okay.
And in the night, I kept feeling that there is a wire across my chest.
Oh.
And I was entangled so badly in it that if a person is sleeping, in no way that person can be entangled that bad that you have to get up and then detangle the whole wire. I cannot do
Wow.
that while I'm sleeping.
Mm.
So I was sleeping, I woke up and I detangled it. I'm like, what is this, thing around me? And I said, oh, it's a wire. I threw it. In the morning again, I did the same process. I cried and I said, God, hug me. And I heard that voice in my head and it said, I did. I
Hmm.
just did. And that was a moment for me.
Wow.
So, I think a lot of people have those kind of experiences. It's just that we don't connect with them the way you connected.
Mhm.
So let's get back to like more of your experiences, what happened
Yeah.
after.
Right. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that beautiful story. I'm sure that's why your life is aligned because when you open up to being in touch with your soul and God, you can have like such a better path, I think. I'm glad you did that young.
Yeah, no, I had many, many experiences. In fact, there was a time, sorry, I'm just being getting emotional. I'm feeling that energy,
Hmm.
sitting in front of you. I felt that I was coming from the metro and I had this voice in my head and it said, I am.
Wow.
And I started crying. It just meant to me that I'm everything. And every person who was passing till the time I reached my house, I was seeing everything, every person. I was crying that I am. This is I am. This is me, and God is everyone.
That's
That was
beautiful.
again a profound experience.
Wow. So you've had quite a lot. That's
Yes, I did.
beautiful.
It's just that, I haven't spoken about it. But yeah,
I'm so
I
glad
mean,
you could share.
I'm connecting with you. I think
Yeah.
there is some synchronicity which is happening
Yeah.
where it's all coming out, like I'm remembering it.
That actually has happened with some of my clients. When I tell my story, they watch it and they say, "I remembered I had these experiences
Yeah.
with angels, or I've had these spiritual things," and you kind of shut it down. I shut mine down for a long time because it was so much to make sense of. But so yeah, I'm so glad. So yeah, so this experience kept going. But the whole time I was going to graduate school, and then things would just happen, and they would come into my experience spiritually. And that's why I didn't write all these down, but I remember them so vividly because they were spiritual and they were just really deep in my soul, everything that happened. So besides the dreams that started coming true, the seeing the light in everyone, I had a spontaneous kind of life review, which is what near-death experiencers have, but I had hurt my sister's feelings by accident. And at this point, this was about 6 months into my experience, I didn't know that I could affect other people. I didn't know that I was even hurting or helping people based on what I said or did. Like, I didn't have an awareness that I was affecting people. But I had hurt my sister's feelings by accident, and we were talking on the phone, and she was not really telling me how much it hurt her, but I felt all of her feelings in my body and just how much I'd really let her down. And it really took my breath away because she wasn't even verbalizing it, and I felt it, and I thought, I never want to hurt anyone like that again. I want to be as kind as I possibly can to everyone because we affect each other. So that was pretty interesting.
So how did you have this life review? Like, what happened? Can you
It
give
was
the
just we were
details?
just talking on the phone, and for these 2 years, I was so spiritually tuned in that, like, everything I just felt everything so deeply, so I think I was just becoming my soul, or, I'd made this promise, and it was like, "Okay, like, you wanna live by the light? Here's some things that you
Wow.
need to figure out," you know?
So
It's like
you
you
had
don't
this
wanna.
experience while you were on the phone.
Yeah, I wasn't asleep, I
Oh
was
my
awake.
God.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
this is what happens when people are really traumatized. I really think, like, I was kind of have come to understood, like, I was so out of the physical world, even though I kept living in it in my body, so much of me was over here that I was able to experience a lot of stuff. But,
And was your sister talking anything about her pain, or she was just talking
she
regular
was saying,
stuff?
like she was saying something like, "It's okay, I'll figure it out." I hadn't planned her bachelorette well because I didn't know how to plan a bachelorette. This is a small thing, but I felt how much it really hurt her,
Yeah, it
and
does.
yeah, I didn't know how to plan it anyway. So, we obviously everything's fine now, but then I just really felt it all. It was like layers of the
Yeah,
hurt
yeah,
and why
I
she
do.
felt hurt and, like, I let her down as a sister. So that was one thing that happened. I also started to feel these angels, which is how I connect and do a lot
Yeah,
of my work.
yeah.
I grew up, like, in a interfaith family, but we didn't talk about angels, but when I made this promise, I started to feel light beings around me. They just felt like friends who were helping me. They were not in the physical world, but they were helping me make good choices. They were standing near me, helping guide me. And even now, like, I can feel them when I do work or when I do interviews, like, how to tell my story. They help me tell my story.
Do you
And they
feel them
just,
right now?
yeah, I feel them. And sometimes they're like, slow down a little bit, because I asked
What
them
are
for
they
help.
telling you right now?
They want me to keep the joy high, and they want me to let people know that this is for everyone. This isn't just like I'm a special person. This is for That's why I'm telling my story. It's for everyone to have their own version of this experience. Like, my experience made sense to me. Yours will make sense to you. Yours will make sense to you. But yeah, that stuff like that. But during this, like, it just felt so helpful. It felt sometimes they would step forward. And one time I really remember. Again, my experience happened while I was in graduate school. It seems exceptional, but a lot of it was about my regular life. I was going to sign up to study abroad, and I felt two really tall angels step forward, and they felt tall, and I've heard other people describe them as tall, which is neat, but and they were just wordlessly telling me not to sign up to study abroad. It was so basic, but I listened. It's like all of our
So you
choices
saw them.
matter. I didn't see them, I just felt them. I did see some angels a couple times. Mostly I would just feel them, and they just feel like loving light friends. They never
Okay.
said we're angels, but, like, what else? For me, that's what I would call them.
Okay. So you've seen them and felt them, right?
Mostly
The
feel, but
first
definitely
time you
yeah.
started, it was seeing them or feeling them?
Mostly feeling them next to me, but sometimes I've seen them where it's like I'll see them in dreams sometimes, or I'll see when I'm really relaxed. I was really relaxed during one point of my spiritual experience, and I saw this, like, swirly rainbow light over me. I don't know. But, I don't see them a lot because as soon as I see something like that, I'm like, what did I just see? I'm scared. That's scary.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just feel them.
One of your podcasts, you mentioned that some person came to you in the subway and just said happy birthday. Please tell us about
Yes,
that
that
story.
was so wild. That was way before any of this happened. Yes, I was 21 at this point. I
Okay.
was living in Washington, D.C., doing an internship, and it was my 21st birthday. I was not a happy person at this point, even though I
Mm-hmm.
maybe looked okay on paper. And someone walked up to me and said, "Happy birthday, Rebecca." It was a guy. And I said, "How do you know my name? How do you know it's my birthday?" And he said, "I come from out there. Things are going to get easier soon."
Wow.
And then he just walked off the metro. And I was like, I'm crazy. He's crazy. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this guy's talking to me, but it was a message, I guess.
Amazing. This is like extremely ecstatic experience, which you might have just thought that, okay, someone said something like that and you just moved past where you were about to have a beautiful life experience in the future, right? It was
Yeah,
before that, right?
I
Before
think
you
you were
seeing the angels.
yeah, I think, I do think the other side, I was pretty depressed at the time, and I think they wanna bring all of us messages that you're loved, that you're okay, and not in a way that's gonna freak us out or make us feel crazy. So this was a really simple message that I'm sure maybe it was an angel, came to give me that it was gonna be okay, life was gonna be alright, happy birthday, that's amazing, and I wish I wouldn't have most of us would, I think, do what I did. Like, I'm not gonna I don't wanna be crazy, is this person really here? What am I I think he was. So,
And now I
yeah,
think it was an angel because how would that person know?
I know.
That was your birthday. Wow. Okay, then what happened? Then like you were seeing the angels, you were feeling the angels, you were seeing the
Yes,
light
yes.
sometimes when you were relaxed. Then what happened?
So, part of why I was keeping this all super under wraps and going to school. And at the time, I was still a great student, lab manager, research assistant, teaching assistant. But my mom had remarried my stepdad in my early 20s, and he was an indigenous man who came from our medicine tradition. So, now I think I'll know a lot of people who are pretty spiritually aware. Like, you might be aware that I'd have this experience, but I didn't know anyone who I could really talk to. But he started having dreams about me during my experience, dreams that I was becoming an angel of God on the earth, and I'm like, I'm just in school. I don't know what, or dreams that I'm glowing with spirit and sitting with him in the sweat lodge. I'd never been to a sweat lodge, never, anyway. So he was really helping me, and he wrote me letters about this, and he really verified it for me because no one could tell. My mom, my dad, my friends, nobody could tell I was going through this except somebody who was really aware spiritually, and he was. So he helped me a lot, that I still didn't understand it for a long time. And it kept going. I mean, it ended about 2 years into it. One other thing that happened, I felt a lot like my heart was really plugged into love. Like, all I really needed was to keep my heart aligned and my life would be fine, which is a lot harder to realize outside of the experience. Cause then it was like, "Oh, why would I ever do anything that is not in alignment with God? Because if I do, everything's fine," And now it's like harder to feel that. I also lived and saw an alternate timeline of my life during my spiritual experience. So I never heard of a timeline because a lot of people say, oh, well, this was just an experience that made sense to you culturally. And some of the stuff, but a lot of the stuff I'd never heard about. So I didn't know that there were things like time. I don't know if you even know about these, but I
Yeah, yeah.
saw and lived
Yeah, yeah,
an
of course.
alternate life in 1 second when I was about to make a choice. And it really overwhelmed me because it made me realize that every choice we make changes our lives. But I was about to write a different book, which now I know I'm supposed to write about this experience, share about this experience, and I didn't know that at the time. And so opened my computer. I wrote one word in a Word document, and then it was like I could see and live my entire life if I did that. I saw that book getting published
Wow.
to bad reviews. I read the bad review. I saw the house I was living in. It was like, and I never really recovered. And it was like that whole life in 1 second. Yeah.
And then you change your choice,
Yeah.
basically.
I closed my computer. I was at a coffee shop. I just went and got a pastry and thought, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But now over time, it took me forever to realize, okay, I had this experience because I'm supposed to share about it. Duh. It took me a
Yeah.
little while to
And
realize that.
like even like the knowledge, the kind of knowledge I have and the kind of spiritual awakening or work I'm doing, I believe that even if you would have written it,
Hmm.
then still you could choose another path. But yes, having that experience is something which got me goosebumps that, you actually having that timeline experience is, I have not heard anyone, having that experience. So
Really? I mean,
how
and I
does
was
that, yeah.
awake. What? No, and I was awake. I mean, I've heard of people
Yeah,
in
you were like,
NDE.
where were you sitting?
I was in a coffee shop in the Upper
Oh,
West Side
wow.
in New York, but it was a little bit like a window opened into that reality, and I could see it.
So how did you see it? You saw it in your mind, you
It
saw
was
it
like I
closed
saw it in
eyes.
my mind, but I also lived it. So it was like watching a movie and being in the movie 1 second the whole life. And yeah,
In
and
one second.
it felt like 1 second. And then I learned that, and towards the end of my experience, things felt really kind of mushed together because I was trying to make so much sense of things. And I felt like I could feel other timelines. Like every time I made a choice, I could feel into how my life was going to change. And it was so confusing. Eventually, I realized I just needed to trust my heart because that would take me on the best path. But it is, I mean, our choices do change our lives, and it's not meant to be like a bad thing, but we can listen to our hearts. Sometimes I think if you get a nudge in your heart that you're like, this doesn't feel right, that's probably you feeling that timeline. We're just not always seeing it. So
Right. And like, what does your mother say? What does your mother have to say about all this? Like, is she spiritual,
well,
religious?
she comes from a very, very religious, kind of mystical religious Christian family. And I think I use different language than her, but she thinks I'm also like this angel person. So she uses different language like than I do, but she's definitely supportive, and she loves that I help people. My dad is also, he's very skeptical but supportive and loves that I help people. So thankfully it can happen that families can be supportive of this stuff. I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for that.
And how, like, were you religious before, or
Uh,
like in your like
kind
when you were
of.
a child?
I mean, I was raised Jewish, and then I found out my mom came from all these ministers, so I explored Christianity. So I consider myself interfaith
Uh-huh.
and
Okay.
just really love being with all of these different people. But I guess I was kind of religious, but not like in a really extreme way. So
What happened? What is the most profound experience you had? The
So
deepest
the
experience?
deepest one, so it basically those are the main parts of what happened. And then at the end of my experience was probably the most profound. I had a dream, a visitation dream, I believe, with an angel when my experience ended. So I really thought that I was going to live this way the rest of my life. I was going to feel all these angels, see all this light. And if I didn't, it was because I was going to leave the planet and go live in heaven. I was like, I'm learning all this cool stuff. I'm learning how to be with God, and then I'm going to just go. This will be awesome. But that didn't happen. My experience did eventually end with this dream where I was in my room talking to someone, and my room is filled with light. It's so beautiful. And I'm saying to this person who's this guy sitting and talking to me, and I'm saying, I don't know why I'm here. Life is hard. I don't know what I'm doing. And he's looking at me with all this love, which is the most profound part of it because he's looking at me with love, and I'm feeling all this love come into my heart. It's like pure light, pure love, pure just seeing me and loving who I am. And he's saying, life is amazing. You need to go have a good life, go have adventures. Being alive is such a gift. And he just is so excited that I get to be alive. And at the time, I was 28 at this point, and I thought, well, this is my future boyfriend. He's coming to meet me in my dream. And I said, what's your name? When am I going to meet you? And he said, my name is Jonathan. I don't know why his name was Jonathan, but I did only date people named Jonathan for a while until I realized he wasn't real. So he said, my name is Jonathan. You can meet me when you finish swimming. And he just said this with total love, no
When
judgment.
you
And then,
finished swimming.
yeah, when you finish swimming. And the dream shifted from me talking to him in my room with all this light to me being on a ship at night. And I was lowered from this ship down into the ocean. And I had to start swimming out alone into the ocean. And when I woke up the next morning, everything was gone. The light was gone. I couldn't feel the angels anymore. Everything was over. And I didn't know why I was here. Even though I'd gotten this beautiful message, I was so confused why I had stopped. And then I started to think, like, the next day I thought, well, I've got to be done swimming and I'm going to meet this guy. And he's really great. And then the next week, nothing would happen. The next week I'd be like, well, I've got to be done swimming now, and I'm going to meet this guy now. He would never come. And I realized he was an angel. But of course, I went through a lot of depression because it was a lot to have all this light and then just be on the earth and have to live
You
a
know what
normal
is
life.
coming in my head right now, listening to you, is that, I mean, this coming in my head, that God made it stop for you, because I've heard such experiences and it never
Mhm.
stops. It goes for the lifetime. But I think because you were a skeptic
Mhm.
and God wanted you to believe in it, that's why it gave you that contrast.
Mhm.
God gave
Yeah.
you contrast, that was real. Because sometimes you might also be thinking that, it's not real. Your logical brain says that it's not
Yeah.
real. But as soon as it stopped, you thought that, oh, there is a difference. And that
Right.
was real. I mean, that's just what is coming in my
I love
head
that.
right now.
That makes sense. Yeah. And it felt
Yeah.
more real than anything. Like all of these spiritual things were more real than my life. And the other thing, like you're right, like I spent so long, learning how to reconnect in a healthy way, which I think is the swimming part, and also, deciding it was real. And that's what I talk about. That's what I teach about is I share how this happened to me, how I decided I wasn't crazy, how I decided this was real. And, we can all do this in our own ways, but yeah, it was a lot. Like, for a while, I couldn't talk. I ended up moving into the woods in a cabin. Like, I was just, like, so confused, and I was looking for where it could be, all the light, and then I finally realized, "Duh, it's in my heart," like, the whole thing started.
It's you. It's
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So, do you like right now, if you want to connect to angels, how do you
Yeah.
do that? And do you?
Yeah, I do. So, a lot of people wanna know how I know it's angels. This all started when I made this promise to
My
God,
next
and
question, yeah.
yeah, and then I felt these loving beings, and it's all about the energy, the frequency, the love signature, whatever you wanna call it. It feels like total love and peace and acceptance. Of course, there's different, you know, energies within that, but it all is part of the whole. So I started reconnecting through journaling. I would ask in prayer to please help me. Probably 10 years after maybe 8 years after my experience ended, I really started reconnecting seriously. So I would write little journal entries and start to get answers that gave me comfort for what I was dealing with or what it was going through. And now
Can you give one example?
I mean, like relationships or what I should do about my job, just basic stuff, but it's always been really helpful. And then now when I reconnect for sessions with people or for the messages I do, I sit in a space of light. Basically, like my spiritual experience, I bring light through my whole body, and then I feel the messages or feel what I need to say for someone to help them. I think there are people who live in that space of light all the time, but I'm a mom, I have a job, and so I do like take time to reconnect and then do the messages and the work.
I have this written out here that you have these sacred soul sessions.
Mhm,
Okay. I will
mhm.
put down a link to those in the description below for all the audience who want to work with Rebecca, who want to connect with their guides or the angels. But Rebecca, for someone who's just listening right now, can you give just a giveaway, like as how one can actually connect with their maybe guardian angels as we know that we have them, or, the ones who are taking care of us, the divine light? How can we actually connect?
I like to get in a place of a clear, calm place. So breathing and relaxing, however you would do that to just really get calm and get grounded. And I do breathe a column of white golden light through my whole body and through each energy center. And then I open my heart. So I take light into my heart and then I breathe it into a bubble around me and then I breathe it out into the all of space. And then I invite in the angels, guides, creator, loved ones too, sometimes, whatever people are looking for. And it starts to become, it's like learning to cook or learning to drive a car. Like it takes a little while and then you get used to, yeah, practice. And I usually feel them stand over my shoulder. I'll feel words come into my head. I'll see pictures. And it's just something I've developed over time. And it's to help people. It's what my promise was to help people live by the light. And so
So
that's what
your
I do.
experience has not ended, then I
I
would say.
guess not. Now that I reconnected, it
Not.
hasn't. Yeah, that's
Yeah, it
true.
hasn't. Yeah. So, okay. So, and if someone is like, when you open up to energies, and there are bad energies as well, if someone tries to connect and they get connected to bad energies, like you were when you had that trauma experience, so what to do in that case?
I would say that you do need to heal your traumas because this is what I believe, and I know people have different experiences that I believe I was seeing in the spiritual world how I was feeling. And I do believe God is eternally good and love is our true nature. And this is what I've come to over a lot of time. And I know not everyone agrees with that. But I think, if you start in a place of love and you have total faith, because I didn't even talk about how I got my nightmares to go away, but it was because I just knew I didn't have to be afraid anymore, that God was with me and they couldn't hurt me and they just disappeared. So it's like just knowing like that faith, like you have God with you have love with you. But if you start to be afraid, and I think you see that. It's hard because if you're afraid, it's hard to not be afraid, but you do need to sit in a place of love. And you can just ask like one guardian angel to be with you or whoever you trust in the spiritual world, like ask that to be with you and don't go too far too fast because I think as we open to these, we do have to do more healing and it takes time. But yeah, generally I create a field of love and that's what I see and connect to. But it's
And
a good question. Hmm.
yeah, I have a very practical question now. Like,
Hmm.
I see good in everyone. I try to
Hmm.
see because I
Hmm.
understand that I'm creating my own reality.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the reflection of myself in the other person, even if the person is bad. But like, what is your say on people who are narcissistic, who, drain you out?
Oof, it's such a good question because I had this during my STE. I didn't bring this up earlier when you asked about bad people, but when I was in my spiritual experience, I was doing an internship at a hospital and I had a supervisor who would yell at me every day. And like
Mhm.
I would end up crying. But then at night, I was having dreams that I was standing behind her, healing her with light at her desk. And I was just sending light into her. And then, but that was the spiritual realm. During the day, it looked
That
like her yelling at
that
me.
means that you were healing her. They need healing.
Yeah, and they say all attack is a cry for help. And so sometimes I think if people are lashing out, it's like they need some kind of healing from us. Doesn't mean you need to let them take advantage of you, but you don't need to attach to it because they're so in pain. And I was in pain before, and I know when I lashed out, I didn't lash out like bad because I was not that like that bad of, but I would like be just in so much pain. I just needed some love. So it was, I always think about that. I was just healing her with light behind her desk. I
And
think,
anyone can practice that with any person they're dealing with. So, I mean, but still, I think I'll have a deeper question, which my audience might have, because
Mhm,
everyone is going like through it in one or the other form, or has gone through it. That there are people in your life, narcissist people, whom you cannot avoid. Actually, people always say that just go away from them. There are
mhm.
sometimes you cannot go away from them. And then the second part is that they are also God. And this is how I handle this situation. I feel they are also God. And if
Mhm.
they are God, I have to forgive them. But
Yeah,
that trauma they give you, that cannot be, that we sometimes people cannot take it. What do you
yeah.
suggest for that
So hard because I've
situation?
definitely I think some of us, maybe the more sensitive of us, get into patterns where we're bringing narcissists like, we have narcissists in our
Uh-huh.
lives again and again, which was like the supervisor for me in various other relationships that I've had to learn how to stand in my power, learn how to set boundaries, and learn to not take it personally. If you can't get away from them, but do step back and give yourself love and permission to center yourself a little bit. I think when we're like, "Oh, how can I make this narcissist heal?" Sometimes you're not gonna get to do that. You're gonna have to let yourself heal and not let them attack you anymore because maybe you need to stand up for yourself. That's what I've learned. That's the
And
hardest thing for
this
me.
question is coming in my head, like circling back to
Mhm.
your light experience. Did you see light in that professor? Did you see the light?
Yeah, I saw it in everyone. I saw it in her too. And we all are that light. Like you said, we're all God, we're all that light, but
Yeah.
we're choosing to show up in different ways. And sometimes these people are in our lives to make us stronger.
Yeah,
You
make
know?
us stronger. Maybe there's some lesson to be learned, or maybe it's just God experiencing itself in some funny way,
Mhm.
which we don't know.
I know. I heard a really interesting interview as an aside since you asked this question with I
Hmm.
forget the person's name, but he was a spiritual teacher. I think he's passed on. He said, when he's done spiritual work, he's seen the narcissist's soul before birth, and the narcissist is like choosing to work with certain people who are working on these lessons of being strong in themselves.
Oh my God.
And in these spirit realms, the narcissist is like, "Look, I'm not going to go easy on you this time. I'm going to be
Oh
real
my
hard on you, but you're going to have
God.
to stand up for yourself." And they show themselves like a fire just coming in. But for the
Oh
the
my
ones of
God.
us that need to stand up for ourselves, need to be
Oh my
stronger. Yeah,
God.
isn't that wild?
That is so useful. And then I've heard that somewhere that a lot of souls have made this agreement to become the villain so that the other can become a hero, because
Yeah,
there is no hero without a villain, right? So they
exactly.
choose it
Right.
before. That's a contract, right?
Yeah, I have goosebumps even talking about it. Yeah, and I think it's
Yeah, yeah,
true.
yeah. I got kind of tears in my eyes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was so
Yeah.
profound. Thank you for sharing that. No, that was
If I can
really
remember
helpful.
the teacher's name, I'll let you know. I can't remember it right now, but it was a good metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like now, coming back to you being skeptic, and
Mhm.
I have had amazing reviews on my videos, just recent videos of which I've posted. They're very spiritual, and I ask these kind of questions to my guests. But there are people who call it woo-woo, who don't believe in it, and who are total skeptic and logical with their brain, just
Mhm.
one side of the brain working. So, what would you suggest for someone who thinks this is impossible, for the skeptic? Because you were that person once
I
upon a
was.
time.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
please talk to that person listening to this video right now.
Okay, I would say don't blame you for being a skeptic. It's okay to only want to believe in things that are real. And I can see why, because there are people that take advantage in the spiritual world. There are people that make things up. And honestly, I had this entire experience and then decided I made it up, even with a stepdad who was having dreams about me. So I can completely relate. but a lot of it comes back to what's in your heart and how are you feeling. And sometimes, having done sessions for people in readings or sacred soul sessions where I'm giving people real information about their lives, like that really helped me become less of a skeptic. And also, I just did a video that I'm posting on my YouTube that, where's the proof? There's not necessarily proof, but what my proof was like now I felt happier. Now I could sleep through the night. I stopped having my nightmares and I was a nicer person. Like there's not like written proof for that, but that was for me a lot of proof. My last thing I would say is that we're mind, body, and spirit. And so I had the body and the mind of, healing. But when I needed to really heal, there was that spiritual side. But it doesn't mean you have to let go of your mind. You can still be really smart, like Priya and all of y'all watching. You don't have to have one or the other. You can have both. So
Yeah.
all
So, I
three.
mean, for me, I feel that if someone can actually sit down with themselves and really connect with themselves, don't believe in anything, and then, for example, you listen to this interview with Rebecca and you see Rebecca anywhere, you will sense her energy. And you will know that the person is saying the truth. Seeing you, Rebecca, I can see that you say it still, that, I still don't believe it. That's so truthful of you. The people I've seen in spiritual arena that, people do make fool of you, people do say woo-woo stuff, but you can sense the energy of the person if you connect with your own self. And
Mhm.
secondly, the only thing which I would like to tell the person who's listening, who's skeptic, is that we are all going to die. And if we are going to die, this is not the truth. And once we open our eyes to that, and once we start digging it, then we understand definitely this is not woo woo. What we feel, there is something behind it, where we came from, where my son came from. When I
Right.
became a mother, it became more profound to me. What is life?
That's
Where
beautiful.
did he come from? He was not there and he came, and like
Amazing.
like we, like all of us. And
Beautiful.
Rebecca, I ask this almost every guest.
Mhm.
How does discipline play a role in our lives? I know this is not related questions, but discipline is something which is should be in every person's life, according to me. But how does discipline play a role in a person's personal development, even soul development?
Yeah, I do think consistency can be great. I was going on a very consistent and disciplined healing journey in my own way, and now that I've had this awakening and reconnected, because for a while I didn't, but now that I connect, I'm disciplined to connect every day to touch into that space of peace and, do work for others because if I didn't, I would not be as balanced. So I do daily messages. And this is like a thing that I could consider pretty disciplined, discipline and we do have that's part of swimming for me. The dream where I had to learn how to swim is that's me doing my part. Like God did all this for me, all this light, all this healing, and now I have to do my part, which is kind of the discipline and connecting on my own. But it's not like it has to be in a really strict way, but it can be in a consistent way, I think.
Yeah, no, the way you mentioned that it has to be practiced and repetition creates brain patterns in our head.
Mhm.
And I think that's how we get pushed towards where we want to go. And I have another question. I have this thing which I call the Metasuperhuman name code. I always do this with all my guests, small experiment. I just want you to speak out your full name and I say, I am, and then, your full name. Can you do it for me, please?
Yes, I am Rebecca Ruth Castle.
Okay, now I want you to close your eyes and think about the most difficult situation in your life. I know what it is now.
Mhm.
Most difficult situation in your life and how you overcame it. Whatever the steps you took, feel it in every cell of your being, just in 1 second, that quickly, and then now say it.
I am Rebecca Ruth Castle.
How do you feel? Like, do
I
you
feel
feel a shift
good.
in your energy?
Yes, that's beautiful.
This is what I call the name code because I always used to remind myself as who I am by taking my own name because our name is coded with our experiences and our struggles and our traumas and the way we overcame them. And that is our power, I believe.
Beautiful.
What is your say on this?
Yeah, it's so beautiful that you do that because when I was traumatized, I was bullied and I hated my name and I wouldn't say it. And then when I started healing, I would say, I am Rebecca Castle, and I would like be okay with my name. And that's part of why I do my healing under my name. was because
So
it's like reclaiming it. So that's a powerful practice. I really love that you do that. I
and
could feel
yeah.
it.
Yeah, every single time I've been in the lowest point of my life, I've done that. And then I discovered this. Oh, this, I've been doing it and this can help
Yeah.
people. And then I went into the research of it. So now one last question. What does, because this is Meta Superhuman platform and you're already a superhuman, all of us are superhumans. So what does becoming Meta Superhuman version of yourself mean to you?
I love the title of your show and your work. It's beautiful. It means to me being more than a human, realizing that we are spiritual beings, that we have spiritual abilities and that we can access them and still be human. So I think it's just to me it's a very beautiful approach to it. I love the name. It does make me feel like we're all superheroes.
We all are, because
Yeah.
we are God, right?
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your time, for your beautiful, beautiful voice, beautiful soul. So much love to you, and thank you.
Thank you,
And
Priya.
I'm so, so happy to meet you and talk to you. And thank you so much for your insights for our audience. I'm so sure that it'll be so helpful for each and everyone listening. And yeah, I'm so excited to bring this episode out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. You're incredible and this has been a gift. So thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for watching. Once again, please do subscribe and do share it with the ones who need it, and press the like button. This has really helped Meta Superhuman to grow and for us to grow together. And do leave a comment if you feel anything, if you have any questions. I answer every single comment. This is Priya Saini, founder of Meta Superhuman, and I'm so excited for my next video. See you in the next video.